Graphics here again, and today we have a $650 quality gaming PC build. So before we get started, I'd like to mention that I now have a Twitter account. It is in the description of the video, but if you don't want to look there, my username is @DPMattMoran. That's capital D, capital P, capital M, and capital M. So it's not super hard, it's something easy to remember, so make sure to follow me for some, updates here and there, some nonsense, whatever I feel like posting. And the second thing is the upload for next week might be late or non-existent. I am going out of town for next week, so it might be pretty hard for me to make a video, so I apologize for that. But other than that, let's get started. So the CPU for this build is the AMD FX 8350, which is $170. It's an 8-core CPU, it's clocked at 4 GHz, and it's an overclockable CPU. This CPU should be perfectly fine for gaming. 8 cores is more than enough for gaming. Really all you need is 4 to 2 cores, but 8 cores, hey, if we have it, why not use it? It is clocked at 4 GHz, but like I said, it is overclockable, and we do have a nice gigabyte motherboard to overclock this CPU. But other than that, this is a pretty overall amazing CPU for a pretty decently priced build. The motherboard for this build is the Gigabyte GA970A UD3P, which is $75. It supports overclocking, it's an ATX board, it has 4 RAM slots, and it supports most high-speed RAM. This is a really great board. I was looking up some reviews. It is an ATX board, so when it comes to upgradability, it's pretty high up there. Another nice thing is it does have 4 RAM slots, so if you do want to upgrade to 16 GB in the future, that shouldn't be an issue. And it does support up to 2000 MHz RAM, which is perfectly fine. All we do have is 1600 MHz, but if you do want faster RAM, which I wouldn't recommend for this build, you can get in the future. This is a pretty nice board. It has an all black color scheme, which I really like, so it matches with the case perfectly fine that I selected. And a nice thing about it is it does support overclocking for the CPU. Like I said, overclocking would be nice for the CPU. You could get some extra gigahertz out of it, which will increase gaming performance. The RAM for this build is the G.Skills Ripjaws X series, which is $74. It's 8 GB, 2 4 GB sticks, it's DDR3 clocked at 1600 MHz, and it's low profile RAM. So I do use this for a lot of my builds, and I actually have used this RAM personally, and it's really great. For its $74 price tag, it has anything you possibly would need for gaming. 1600 MHz, DDR3, and 8 GB is the 3 things to look for gaming RAM these days, so this RAM should be perfectly fine for this build. If you do have a fairly big cooler, this is low profile RAM. They don't consider it low profile RAM, but it is pretty low profile in my opinion. So this RAM is perfectly fine for this build. The hard drive for this build is the Seagate Barracuda, which is $50. It's 1 TB, it's a 3.5-inch HDD, and it's 7,200 RPM. So I do use this for a lot of my builds under $1,000 because SSDs are expensive these days. For its $50 price tag, you do get some decent specs. 1 TB and 7,200 RPM is what you need for basic gaming. It's not like it's noticeably slow, but it is not as fast as a SSD. Now this hard drive is great. I use it myself, and the failure rate isn't that, it isn't really bad. It's about the same as the Western Digital Caviar Blue, which is pretty good. So this hard drive should be perfectly fine for the $650 build. The graphics card for this build is the XFX Radeon R9 270X, which is $150. It has its double dissipation cooler, it's clocked at 1 GHz, and has 2 GB of GDDR5 RAM. I was considering going with a higher end GPU, but I wanted to keep the name of this title true, make it a quality build. So I decided to go a little bit cheaper on the GPU for this build, but it does still pack a lot of performance in this card. The R9 270X can play most games at pretty decent settings. It is very similar to the R9 280, but it is a great card. The double dissipation cooler I myself use, and I really like XFX coolers. They're very nice, and they actually do look nice themselves too. Another thing about this, it is only 2 GB of GDDR5 RAM. I would like to see 3, but it really isn't necessary because this is a lower end build. So for the most part, this GPU should get the job done perfectly fine and play most games at pretty decent settings. The case for this build is the NZXT S340, which is $65. It's a quality case, it's an ATX mid-tower case, and it supports most motherboards, GPUs, and coolers. So I was looking into this case and it looks pretty awesome. I watched a Hardware Canucks video on it, And for its $65 price tag, it does have a lot of high quality things in it. From small things to a GPU bracket and some hard drive things here and there. It is a very nice case. It also does look very nice with its window on the side, but this case should fit this build perfectly fine. The power supply for this build is the Seasonic M12II, which is $60. It's 520 watts, it's 80 plus bronze certified, and it's a very high quality PSU. So this power supply is top of the line. Seasonic makes some of the best power supplies on the market currently. This power supply is $60 and 520 watts, but it will not fail on you. The failure rate for this power supply is very, very slim. So that's why I decided to stick with this more expensive quality power supply for this build. Another thing about power supplies, if this part fails, it could also break other parts. So with this high quality part, most likely all of your other parts won't fail if this one does fail. So that's pretty much it, guys. Make sure to check out purepc.net, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you later.